In this legal brief, I want to talk to you about the difference between a negotiated plea and an open plea. I've been getting a lot of questions about this lately because we've had some prominent cases in the news in which defendants have entered into open pleas with the court. First, let's start with what a plea is. A plea is a defendant's formal answer to criminal charges. And we're all familiar with this. It's when a defendant walks into court, usually for the first time, is told what the charges are, and he or she will enter a plea of guilty, not guilty, or no contest. And in a criminal court, a plea of no contest is treated the same as a guilty plea. There is no difference. Once the person enters a plea, one of two things happens. If a person pleads guilty, we move on to a sentencing. If a person pleads not guilty, we start the process where the prosecution has the burden of proving the person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, a negotiated plea is what we're all most familiar with. That's when the defendant and the prosecution negotiate terms upon which a person will plead guilty or no contest. That could result in the prosecutor dismissing charges, lowering the charges, or keeping the charge but offering a more lenient sentence. Once the bargain is struck, it's taken to a judge, and if the judge approves, the case is resolved on those terms. It allows the parties to control the outcome of the case. An open plea, on the other hand, does not involve the prosecutor. It's when a defendant walks into court and simply pleads guilty as to all of the charges. At that point, although a prosecutor can still recommend a sentence, the determination of how the case is resolved is left completely up to the judge. That's what's called an open plea. It's open, wide open, and a judge can impose any lawful sentence he or she chooses. Now, why would a person enter into an open plea as opposed to a negotiated plea? Well, there are a variety of reasons, but one common reason is the defendant and the prosecution can't reach an agreement. Maybe the defendant thinks that what the prosecution is offering is too high, and the defendant thinks he can get a better offer from the judge. In a case like that, the defendant may plead open and accept the punishment that the judge thinks is appropriate. There are no guarantees that a judge is going to sentence to something less than what the prosecution was offering, but that's a chance that a defendant will sometimes take. Judges have reputations. They have reputations for being middle of the road, for being a little more lenient or a little more harsh. And so sometimes there's a calculation that the judge will do better than what the prosecution is offering. So those are the differences between an open plea and a negotiated plea. Hope you found this helpful.